This video is brought to you by Mini Prints. Visit miniprints.com and check out all the 3D printed super detailing parts they offer. Take your layout to the next level of detail. They're the resin. Your layouts look so detailed. That's miniprints.com. Additional support provided by Grand Central Scenery. For the very best in realistic trees, check out Grand Central Scenery online at grandcentralscenery.com or call 801-891-7255. Since 1995, Grand Central Scenery has been the leader in fine handcrafted scenery and accessories. Hi, I'm Go Veer, Go Home. Welcome to Keeping Track. In this month's episode, we have a few Railfanning clips for you. We're also doing part 3 of the father-son diorama build. In this set, we're going to be doing some ballast on the track for you. All that and more coming up right now. Last time on Keeping Track. Today, we're going to do some ballast on our dioramas. Here's a few things that you might need. So we have a couple of soft tip
brushes, just regular little paint brushes. We have a hopper here, which is by Bachman. They usually go for about $15. And we're going to use a mixture of 3 different ballasts that I've already pre-mixed here. But it's mostly medium gray, light gray, and light brown. And it's a mixture of 40, 40, 20. And they are both fine and medium. We're going to use some white glue. This is just your regular dollar store white glue. We have some 100% or 99%, I guess, it's rubbing alcohol in a little spray bottle. I have another spray bottle, and I put some dish soap in there. That'll help with the mixture. All right, so we're going to start with filling up this hopper here. Because there isn't much track to work with, we don't need to fill this thing all the way. But I'm going to get him to fill it, and then he's going to pull it right along there, and it'll evenly distribute the ballast right along the track. I did place a paper towel under the little diorama here just in case there is some spillage. It's bound to happen with something like this, seeing as how the track goes right to the edge. But it's not an issue because we can just save whatever we don't use and put it back into the hopper and use it on mine. This part can be a bit more tedious and might take a bit more time. So we just want to take our soft tip brush. This one here, we're using a fan brush just because it'll lightly brush everything and fill in between the ties here. And we're just moving in one direction. We're going to pull it all closer to us here. And we want to go right from the edge to make sure that everything is moved down the line here. And we're just making sure that it's all evenly distributed. You don't want to leave too much on top of the ties because in the real world, the locomotive will drive over this, and because of the rumble, it'll work all those stones down in between the ties and more or less make it look a little bit cleaner looking as opposed to all of it sitting on top. But it really depends on the area. I decide to give my son a hand here, just kind of moving the ballast away from the rails a little bit so that they don't get all clogged up. And he's gonna eventually do the sides here, but he wants to make sure that the top is nice and clean and everything is evenly distributed along there. So now that we have to go up on each side of the rail here, we just want to clean off the ties, the tops of the ties here. You don't want to really disrupt everything that's falling down from them because you've got a really nice angle there. So you can always try to pull some down. You can see kind of pulled the whole thing down, so we just pushed it back just to correct it. And we'll do touch-ups after, before everything is set in place. But more or less, yeah, we're going to clean off both sides here and tidy it up. Make sure ballast is all the way to the edge on both sides at both ends to make it look like it's going off of the diorama. I'm also just going to kind of pat it down just to pack all the ballast in, and we'll clean it up a little bit, and then we'll have to glue everything down. So enjoy this, and then we'll be right back. In this next part here, what we're going to do is we're going to create our 50-50 glue and water mixture. Now, before I add the glue or the water, basically I did put some pumps of dish soap in there. That'll help for it to run through all of the ballast there and get deep right in there to make sure it's all locked in. I'm going to empty this whole bottle of glue here because I've got 2 dioramas that we need to do. And of course, I'm going to go and do some stuff on the actual layout. So none of this is actually going to get wasted. I usually like to wait till I have a large section to do, so I'm not wasting glue and all that. But yeah, I'm just going to finish filling this, and then we're going to put some water in it. Before we apply the 50-50 glue and water, we want to soak the ballast, and then that way, if the ballast is wet, then anything else that's wet will absorb into it. So we're going to use the 99% alcohol here, keeping a fair distance away so that we're not pushing any of the rocks. A lot of people will use eyedroppers, but I don't have all the time in the world. I like to do things quickly but sufficiently. And this spray bottle here, it does the trick. So I soak the area, or in this case, my son will soak the area. And then we have our 50-50 glue and water with a little bit of dish soap in there. And we shook it up real good. And he's going to now apply it. And we're going to create little puddles, as they were, in the middle first. We're going to start in the middle, and then we're going to do the sides. So he likes to get very close, but I just moved his arm back a bit so that he can apply to a larger area at one time here, and he won't run the risk of pushing the ballast out of its place. So just making sure that he's able to do that. Just kind of giving him a hand because, again, this is his first time. So, but he's doing really good. So once it looks like it's starting to pool a little bit, that will eventually absorb into the actual ballast. And we're going to aim right now. We're going to aim for the ties along the side. So what'll happen is that because, just like in nature, if you've got a hill, all the water will run down the hill. And with this ballast, because it goes down a hill, more or less, we want to aim for the top. That way, when it absorbs, it'll absorb downward. And it will basically soak into the ballast, and it will eventually dry a solid piece on both sides. Okay, so now it's my turn to do the ballast on mine. I'm going to repeat the exact same process with no differences. Keeping in mind, once the glue is applied, you want to give it about 24 hours, maybe more, depending on how thick the ballast is, just to give it some time to dry. That was the only thing I didn't mention there. White glue does take forever to dry, so just give it enough time without touching it or disturbing it, and it should be fine. after the ballast is dried, we want to add some color to the rails and possibly some rust. So I've got these Testors paint markers here, and right now he's using Rail Brown, and he's going to go along both sides and the top of the rail, and he's basically just painting it with the marker. This is a special pack. It comes with 3. You get the tie brown, rail brown, and rust color. Now, we already painted the ties when we had spray painted it, but we're going to do some ties as well. We're not going to paint every tie, but we're going to do a select few and do light coloring to it. Here's that rail brown that I was just talking about. Again, we're not doing every single tie, but he's going to get some from the middle and then a couple of the ends as well, just to make it look like they're all not the same color. And depending on if you're doing a section maybe with a switch, you can always do a white line or a yellow line just as a clearance rail or tie. There's also other markers that you can put along the side of your track there as well. But we're going to stick with this because we're just doing the basic stuff right now. And just making sure that he gets the sides as well as the middle. And then we'll add some rust. When it comes to adding rust to your rails, there's 2 things that you want to keep in mind. The first thing is geographically, where is your track located? If you're by the sea or salt water and whatnot, it does tend to rust things way more and way quicker. So you'll want to apply a heavier rust look to your track. Also, when you have trains on a main line that are constantly using the track, you tend to have less rust on it opposed to, let's say, a siding or a dead rail that hasn't been used in quite some time. So always keep these things in mind when you're setting the scene, and hopefully it helps to bring it to life a bit more. Always have a story and just make it make sense. Well, that's all the stuff that we're going to do this month on the actual dioramas. Come back next month where we put the finishing touches on, adding static grass, trees, and more.
Thank you so much for watching Keeping Track. Come back next month for even more. Coming up next, GVO After Dark. I've been your host. Go VR, go home. I have a train to catch. See ya.